there, savvy home buyers and sellers. This is Jeff O'Leary, the Village Guru. And in today's episode, I want to talk about home appraisals, how they work, who does them, and finally, I'm going to go over how we appraise a home. If you're a home buyer or seller, you're not going to want to miss this episode. So let's go. So let's talk about home appraisals. A home appraisal is something that you as a homeowner might need from time to time for a number of reasons. Maybe you're looking to refinance your home, maybe you're doing renovations, maybe you're looking to sell and you want to make a plan, or maybe there's a divorce or something going on and you need to understand what your home is worth. Regardless of the case, home appraisals are something that you may run across from time to time. So in today's episode, I wanted to break them down and how you would get a home appraisal, and then also show you how we appraise homes, just so you have an idea of what to expect for a home appraisal. So first off, let's talk about how you get a home appraisal. Well, in this market, there's really three main ways you're going to be able to get your home appraised. The first way is with a certified appraiser. Now, this is a third-party company that's being paid to provide a report giving what they feel the value of the home is. Now, the pros of an appraiser are that number one, they're not tied to the sale. They're not swayed by what a homeowner feels their house is worth, unlike maybe a realtor whose ultimate goal is to get a listing. Number two, because of the same reason, you're probably not going to get a sales pitch at the end of it. So if you're just looking for value and you want someone who's not attached to whatever decision you make with that, then a certified appraiser could be a good way to go. All right, so now let's talk about the cons of hiring a certified appraiser. So number one is you don't know who this person is or their experience with your home style or even area of expertise. They have to do a lot of appraisals, and sometimes they might not take the time needed in order to properly evaluate a home, especially for things that are unique, maybe to an area or a specific home. While there are general trends in real estate truly is local. So having someone who's actually buying and selling in that area can maybe give a much better perspective on what's actually going on. And there's an upfront cost for someone to come, take a quick look at your house, and write a short report giving you an opinion of value. Now, another thing to remember is just like anybody else, an appraiser is a human being and they're subject to their own biases, and nobody is perfect. Some appraisers actually appraise quite low, and that could cause a problem if you're looking to refinance or to get a true value of your home. I've had circumstances where an appraiser's gone into a home of a client of mine and valued at 15% below market value when another appraiser comes in and they're 15% higher. And you can ask yourself, how can two certified appraisers come up with such different valuations? Again, it's what they choose to look at in the home or the comparables they choose to compare your home against. So just because someone writes a certified appraisal doesn't really mean that that is actually the price. The only true way to get market value is to sell your home and have a buyer pay you. That determines the value of your home. Next, let's talk about automated appraisals. Over the past few years, automated appraisals have become very popular. Big websites such as Zillow and a number of other websites are all claiming to be able to give you a value of your home simply by you typing in your home's address and giving a few short details like the number of beds and baths and such. Using fancy words like machine learning, algorithms, data points, they try and convince you that somehow this computer knows more than a realtor or anybody else out there, and by simply having access to the MLS sold data, that they're able to pinpoint your home and give you a valuation, so there's no need to talk to anybody. Now, while these computer programs do have access to data such as MLS sold data, they are only able to probably give you a very, very, very broad range of what the possible value is of your home. Keep in mind that the computer only has access to so much data. The computer can't see into a house. They don't know how many upgrades have been done. They don't know what the house backs onto, or a number of other factors that buyers take into consideration when buying a house. If we look at Zillow, one of the biggest websites out there for real estate, and not even to pick on them, on their own Zestimates page, they quote, "The Zestimate is not an appraisal and should only be used as a starting point. We encourage buyers, sellers, and homeowners to supplement their Zestimate with other research such as visiting the home, getting a professional appraisal of the home, or requesting a comparative market analysis from a real estate agent." And this is important because a lot of people will do one of these automated appraisals, they'll get some number, and then they'll hold on to that number like, this is the value of my home. And then maybe they'll talk to a realtor, they'll talk to an appraiser, and they might not get the same valuation. At the end of the day, having a professional that's actually works in your area, has seen the comparables in your area, knows what buyers expect in a home in your area and what they're gonna pay is gonna go a long way to giving you that truly large picture and being able to narrow down a price for you. Okay, so let's go through the pros of an automated appraisal. Well, the only pro I know is it's super easy to do and there's no commitment. So you put in your address, you fill in a couple of details, and you should receive a report of value of your home. Now, when we talk about the cons, the first one I already mentioned is that they tend to be wildly inaccurate. And that's because computers only know so much. They can only compute data that they have access to. And unfortunately, when we look at valuating homes, we need to take data from a number of different sources in order to come up with a true picture of what the market value is. So when you get an automated appraisal, just be aware it is a very, very, very broad range and that it needs to be sharpened. And that usually involves either an appraiser or a realtor coming in. Another con that no one really talks about is these big companies don't create these free appraisals out of the goodness of their heart or a public service for home sellers. They need to be compensated somehow, and normally that comes through selling your information or referring your information to a salesperson in order to get a lead. Makes sense, right? Nobody's going to spend $1 million creating a computer program just for you to appraise your house with nothing in return. So these companies know that if you're asking for an appraisal, there might be a good chance you're looking to sell your home. So they're going to take your data and either send it to a realtor who's going to call you on the phone in order to give you a more accurate appraisal, and that's how the system works. So again, no problem, just realize that you're probably going to get a sales pitch of some sort when you do one of these auto appraisals. And also keep in mind is you're not choosing who the realtor is. So again, you don't know if they have any experience in your area or anything else. So keep that in mind when doing an auto appraisal. So the third way is to have a realtor give you an appraisal on your home. This is very common, especially with home sellers. So you're going to call in a realtor, they're going to take a look at your home, they should look at the comparable sales, and they're going to give you a range of value that your home is possibly worth in the market. Now, the pro of using a realtor is if they're experienced in your area and they're good at what they do, then they know what the other homes are selling like. They know what buyers are thinking in that area, and if they've been selling homes in the area, they know the trends of what's going on in the market. Another pro is they'll take into account special features of your home that aren't quite visible on the MLS. So things like, wow, my home backs onto a forest, or my house is in a great school area. These are all things that computers really don't understand, and also things that maybe an appraiser who doesn't work in the area and is only coming there to do an appraisal might not take into consideration either. Now let's go over the cons of calling in a realtor. So number one, obviously realtors get paid to buy or sell houses. The whole goal is to get your business. So expect that you're going to get a sales pitch, but if you're prepared for it, it's not too bad. I mean, the realtor's basically going to tell you what they do to sell homes, and at the end of the day, as a homeowner, it's up to you how you want to proceed. Another con is not all realtors are created equal. I mean, just like anybody else, some are good at what they do, some are not good at what they do. Some are very experienced in the area you're in or with the home style that you have, and some aren't. So it's important to do your research ahead of time. That usually means going online, checking out their websites, making some calls in order to determine that, yes, this is a person that's experienced in this neighborhood and therefore can give me a proper valuation. All right, so now that we talked about how to get a home appraisal, now I'm going to quickly go over how we appraise homes for our clients and possible sellers in order to give you an idea of what you can expect. So step number one, we need to define the local area and find comparable sales. So this involves looking at your local area and trying to make it as narrow as possible in order to come up with the most accurate comparable sales. So when we look at a local area, that means it's not your city, but more likely your small neighborhood. It could also mean things like the school zone area you're in, homes in the same age range. There's a number of factors, but basically we want to get them as close as possible in order to give you a more accurate picture. Step two, once we have the local area defined and we have some general comparables, we do a statistical analysis based on tax assessment and square footage to narrow down these comparables. And it's during this time that we also adjust prices if the comparable sales were in the past. So you got to remember, real estate is a constantly moving thing. So from month to month, the market could be going up, it could be going down. So it's important that you truly capture the value of a home if it was to sell today. For example, in some areas, you may have comparable sales that happened 6 months ago, but if your market's gone up 10% since then the sale price of that home, say it sold for $600,000 6 months ago and the market went up 10%, in today's dollars, it should be about $660,000. So this is the step that's overlooked a lot of times, but it's truly important, is that you need to adjust these sales in order to bring them to today's value. Now, if done correctly, you're gonna have two things. Number one, you're gonna eliminate homes that may have looked like a comparable, but they're actually quite different. One of the mistakes people make is when they go on MLS, they look at pictures and they're like, well, that house looks like mine, therefore my house is like it. But when we dive in deeper, we find out that one house is 500 square feet bigger, or maybe it had a much bigger backyard, or something else that's not quite noticeable on MLS. So this is why we do this statistical analysis in order to eliminate properties that aren't truly comparable. And next, this report should give you a range of what your home should sell for in this market, both on the high end and the low end. Once we start comparing actual features and upgrades and things like that about the home, that's when we would determine where your particular home falls in the range. And that's really important because say you wanted to renovate your home, well, there's only so much value in that home. I mean, you can over renovate it and you're not going to get the return back on it. And in fact, say you have a 3-bed detached and you just go way over that range. Well, the problem is people will just buy a 4-bed at that price point. So it's important for renovation, it's important for planning that you get into that range and then you try and get your home as high up on that range as possible. And that's what this report does for you. Step number 3, now we compare the individual details of each home in order to see which one is worth more and which one has an upgrade and which one does not to actually come up with a value. Some of the most important things we look at, including upgrades, decor style, very important. Some people definitely ignore that. We look at things like amenities. So maybe one house has a pool, one house doesn't. Maybe one house has a finished basement, one doesn't. And we basically go line by line on each home in order to come up with what home has more and what did they sell for and what this one sold for and what they were missing. This is really called the comparison method, and this is what most people do in order to compare homes. But like I said before, without doing the previous steps, you may be comparing homes that aren't truly comparable, which you don't want to do as a home seller because it could hurt you in the long run. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this quick video on home appraisals. Obviously, we could go in a lot more detail, but the most important takeaways I want you to get from this video is number one, there's a number of ways to get an appraisal, and they both have their pros and cons. So keep in mind to get the right person to give you the appraisal based on your situation. And number two, to understand how homes are appraised by realtors and the importance of following all the steps to ensure you get the best and most accurate appraisal you possibly can. At the end of the day, an appraisal is what it is. It's an opinion of value, and the only true way to determine market value is to sell your home and have a buyer close that deal. Well, there you have it. I'm Jeff O'Leary. If you have any questions about real estate, always feel free to call or email me. Have yourself a great day.